Hello, today we're going to go ahead and we're going to review how the master airscrew propellers work on the Autel XSP. Again, I'm Dan from Drone Flyers. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take off here shortly. Just a couple things I want to mention real quick before we begin our flight. First of all, I have gone ahead and I have already installed the master airscrew propellers on the Autel. And secondly, I have already performed a pre-flight on the Autel, so she is safe and ready for flight. Let's go ahead and take off. The first thing we can notice even before we take off is I just engage the motors, and uh, for those of us who are very familiar with the Autel flown it a lot, we can kind of probably hear in the background there that it's actually a little bit quieter with the master airscrew propellers on. It seems to have a little less noise as it just sits there, and right now it's just resting patiently on the Autel case, but we'll go ahead and get it in the air just a couple of feet and then I'll bring it to a hover. So you can hear again that it's not quite as noisy as it oftentimes is. Now in a hover, there's not a whole lot of wind out today, and the gimbal's doing pretty well at correcting it, so it may be a little hard to see as you're looking out the screen of the camera view at the field. I'm flying it, but it does seem to stagger around just a little bit more with these props at low altitude. Let's go ahead and take it on up in the air. So one of the things I have noticed, and this isn't my first time flying with these propellers on the aircraft, it's probably my third, I think it is. The first flight I made was on a very windy day. It was really a hard day to do a fair evaluation on the master air screws. So I am going ahead and reflying the bird on a much lighter wind day in order to make this recording. So I do notice on every flight that the pitch of these propellers is definitely a much higher pitch, and the climb performance is exceptional. So it doesn't take long at all to get up to right now 184 feet, which is higher than I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it down quite a bit. I'm doing some turns here. Overall stability seems very good with the aircraft at altitude. Like I said, it does seem to get a little bit more bouncy at low altitudes with these air screw propellers on these master air screw. Now I'm doing a couple of figure eights just to kind of feel out precision. It seems to be doing okay. The bird is flying very well with the propellers on. Right now it's in GPS mode. Another thing I have noticed on the few flights that I've had with these master airscrew propellers is that although I have the maximum speed set for the GPS to be 11 miles an hour, it's not always reaching that 11 miles an hour. When it was very windy out, you could actually see the difference between the headwind and the downwind when it was in flight. It was a strong wind day, and at one point with these master airscrew propellers on, it was doing only about 2 miles an hour. So right now with full pitch forward, we'll see that it is doing 9 miles an hour. So we aren't getting the same maximum speed. When I put the Autel propellers on this aircraft, it almost consistently gets up to the maximum speed that I set it up to at 11 miles an hour. I am going to go ahead and put it now in ADI mode, and we'll test it out in ADI. Oh,
Attitude mode
accidentally put it on
activated.
LLC mode. There we go. Now we're into ADI mode. Oftentimes with the ADI propellers. Right now I'm about where I normally get to 33, 35 miles an hour in ADI mode if I hold the stick forward for long enough. So I don't know if it is because the propellers aren't perfectly balanced or it has to do with the propeller pitch, but I do find that the bird does overall go just a little bit slower with these master air screw. The exception to that is that it does seem to um, be affected by the wind a lot more. So in GPS mode with the propellers from Autel on it, headwind, downwind, you really don't see much of a difference in the aircraft. It doesn't feel much of a difference. However, with these master airscrew propellers on, they're probably great for training students, and because it does show the effect of headwinds and tailwinds on speed. So right now, as I'm bringing it in close to me to bring it close to the ground again, and it's flying into a headwind, you'll see that it loses quite a bit of speed. Granted, I don't have full forward pitch deflection because I'm bringing it close to the ground and to me so I can land it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch out the propellers and I'm going to do a short flight with the Autel propellers on just so you have a little better comparison. All right, back with you. I've got the stock propellers on the Autel now, the ones that come with the drone. Let's fire her up. So definitely you can hear the noise level in the drone when it takes off. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in GPS mode. I had it in ADI mode. That's what I landed in, was ADI. Go ahead and put it in a hover. There's still a little bit of drift with this drone. The Autel doesn't always do fantastic. It's been my experience. And there's a little bit of gusts and the wind's starting to pick up just a little bit. However, I do see a little more stability here with the stock propellers versus the master air screw, even in a hover. I'm going to bring it back and up. Pay attention to the climb rate. Still doing a good job climbing, but it's definitely a much, much slower rate. We're right now passing through about where I'm going to keep it, 120, 130. Bring it down into the 120s a little or so. And it's definitely a much slower climb than with the master air screw propellers. Go ahead and do as we did earlier, a figure 8 or so with it. As you would expect, Autel's flying very well with its stock propellers. No issues with handling at all. Go ahead and stick it in ADI mode so we can do that comparison
Attitude
when it comes
mode
to speed.
activated.
So we're now flying the bird almost fully into a headwind. And it's doing about what it did with the master air screw props, speed-wise. See it now getting up to just about 43 miles an hour, which is pretty good. And of course, that's in ADI mode. If I really want to demonstrate the difference to you, it's putting it back in GPS mode. Overshot there again to LOC, or IOC, I mean. And so, as the drone is moving along, I find that it stays consistently a little closer to the 11 mark. Although right now, it's still staying in the 9s now. I find that interesting. There we go. Now we're closer to 10. So some birds flying by. the difference between the master airscrew and the stock propellers, I believe, is first of all, in the climb, there is no doubt, hands down, undeniably, so that the master airscrew propeller outclimbs the Autel propeller. Now, today with the winds not being that strong, like I said, they picked up not so much in consistent strength, but I would say in the fact that there were small gusts starting up here between the time that towards the end of my flight where I shut it down and changed the propellers and got the Autel propellers back on there and fired her back up. But I believe that the stability near the ground, the stability in the wind is much better with the Autel blade. So up aloft, not a whole lot of difference between the two. However, when you do bring it close to the ground, especially if it's gusty or there's some wind, then I think the difference in stability you'll find is substantial when it comes to the master airscrew. Bringing the bird in for a landing there. And, I like to do a precision landing on a pretty regular basis, so I'm trying to land it on a specific spot so you'll see a little bit of teetering. So anyway, this has been a review of the Master Airscrew and the Autel stock blade propellers by Drone Flyers. I appreciate your time watching this video, and I hope you have a great day and have fun and happy flying.